weekend. There's about a 90% chance of rain tonight. The low's supposed to get down to the mid-40s. So, sounds like camping weather. I mean, how much fun is it going out when the conditions are what most people would call ideal? This is an area I've been to before. I've never camped out here, but should be a little bit of an adventure finding a place to camp. Of all the nights I've ever spent sleeping outdoors over my lifetime, I don't think I've ever spent the night in a hammock. Probably taking a nap in a hammock, that's about it. So I picked up a hammock not long ago, and I figured, what the heck, maybe I'll just try to set that up under a tarp and sleep in that tonight. Kind of a trial by fire, because it's gonna rain tonight, and I guess I'll pass the test if I can rig this thing up and stay dry. So we'll see. Prusik knot tied along the ridge line that you can slide back and forth to keep that ridge line tight. Ripping this tip off from Coal Cracker Bushcraft. Thanks, Dan. Here's the little setup. Got that hammock suspended under there nicely. Should keep me nice and dry as long as the rain doesn't start blowing in sideways. Then I might be in a little bit of trouble, but looks like that'll work for the night. I rigged up a little dining fly area to maybe build a fire in front of. It's probably just a small fire. I don't want to get crazy or anything. Just a place that starts raining, or when it does start raining, at least I'll have a dry place to sit and eat and all that outside of my little hammock fly. Definitely getting darker, so I guess if I want to have enough light to video making the fire, I better do it now. I suppose 8 o'clock's late enough to eat. Yeah, I just brought another MRE. Menu 21, tuna, chunk, light, water-packed lemon pepper. Sounds like a good meal for Friday. Wow, Starkist Tuna Creations. And it's even in a camo colored outdoors pouch. Some cheese-filled crackers, pepperoni pizza flavor. Accessory package has some raspberry beverage powder in it. No coffee though. First Strike energy bar. Cheese spread. Some tortillas. Fat-free mayonnaise. And some sort of drink here. Vanilla dairy shake powder. Not bad. I really love sitting by a campfire in the evening, staring into it as it burns away, as it staring into that chemical reaction where the wood's vaporized, basically. Gives off a lot of light, a lot of heat, some smoke sometimes too. People have been gathering around fires for thousands upon thousands of years. They used to do it a lot more than we do it nowadays. It was a daily occurrence a long time ago. Now for a lot of us, it's kind of a treat to be able to get out and do it. The good old camp TV. It's amazing how just sitting in front of a fire just gives you something to do. It's not, usually you don't get bored watching a campfire. I really like going out on solo trips. I don't, from time to time it's good just to get out by myself, in and of itself. But I guess most of the time, the reason why I go alone is for various reasons. I just don't have anybody to go with me, like my wife's busy or something. Or the weather's really, really ridiculously crappy and my wife is smart enough to stay home and not go camping with me. But one thing I miss when I'm by myself is the stories that are told around a campfire. Not necessarily, fictional stories, but I've spent so many nights over my life sitting in front of a campfire listening to people relate stories about trips that they had taken. Back in my Boy Scout days, I loved sitting around a campfire with some of the older guys and leaders and hearing stories about some of the high adventure trips they went on in the summer up to like Philmont in the mountains of New Mexico, or up in the Boundary Waters or the points north in Ontario or Manitoba. Talked about the canoe trips or even the winter trips up in Minnesota. But you just hear these stories about these places that you know that some of the other guys have gone to, and you know, the adventures they had there, and you really hoped that one day you would be able to experience that. And I was lucky enough to do that. Go to some of those places I had heard stories told about in front of a fire, and I definitely had some experiences out in those trips worthy of some good campfire tales also. Like being guided across a very big, rather stormy lake at night with just one little point of fire on the far shore to guide us. That's a long story, but that's definitely one that sticks out in my mind as a good campfire story. Or even, you know, being up in the mountains before the climb with some others talking about and it started raining. Or even listening to stories of people's trips, like trekking in the Himalayas, talking about, you know, the land up there and the water, and the glacial melt, you know, all while surrounded by the closer to home mountains of Colorado. You can really be transported to a lot of interesting, far-off places just by sitting around a fire and listening to the stories that people tell. Got the sleeping bag in the hammock. Hasn't quite started raining yet. It's been, you know, you get a few sprinkles here and there, but I'm sure before too long it's going to probably open up and start raining for quite a while. I'm going to snuggle in here and read a book for a while. Well, I do have to say, so far it actually feels pretty comfy and cozy. It is going to get fairly cool tonight in the mid-40s or so. I know that, I guess the thing to do is to put like an under quilt type thing underneath your hammock. That way it gives you some insulation, because when you lay in your sleeping bag of the hammock, obviously it just smashes it flat and you lose all that insulation. So with that under quilt, it puts some loft underneath of you where you're not going to smash it down. Well, under quilts are about $100, so I didn't really feel like buying one right away. So what I did instead was I got about 3 of those foam kind of seat pad cushion things, and I gonna place those underneath my, kind of, you know, from my chest down through my pelvis, basically where most of the weight is going to be smashing flat the insulation. So hopefully that'll provide enough insulation that I'll stay warm. So far it seems like it's going to work pretty well. But just going to settle in and read for a little bit here, and before too long I think it's probably going to start raining. So hopefully I did a good enough job setting all this up. As long as the rain comes straight down, more or less, I'm sure I'll be okay. But I'll read a little bit here and settle in for the night. See you in the morning. I have to say, I think I'd call the first night spent in a hammock a success. I am so comfy and cozy laying here that I don't even want to get up. This is nice. I'm definitely doing this again. Probably haven't been this comfortable overall sleeping when I've been out camping for I don't know when. The rain behaved and didn't blow in sideways, so that hasn't been a problem. It's been raining pretty consistently all night from maybe midnight on or so. I'm not really looking forward to getting up and getting out in it, but oh well. I knew I was gonna have to. I knew what I was signing up for when I decided to come out, so I guess I better face that part of it. I'm sure what's left of my fire is probably, well, I'm sure there's nothing left of it. So that's all. I have to get up, get going here. My little Plosh Palatka tarp setup worked pretty well over here. Kept the spot underneath it dry. I was going to sit out here and make my coffee and my breakfast, but I think I'm just going to go sit underneath the blue tarp that I had my hammock under, because there's more room down there. There's more of a dry spot to sit on. So I think I'll go over there. I was debating on whether or not to light the campfire again, and although I could, I stored some wood, some small kindling wood underneath the tarp over there. That way it would be dry if I needed it in the morning, and I also have some dry cedar bark in my pack, but I just don't think I want to mess with it. And besides, I wanted to use this MSR Pocket Rocket to stove a little bit more to kind of get a better feel for it. So I'll use that as an excuse for why I don't want to light a fire in a rainy morning. Although I'm sure I could, but just didn't really feel like messing with it. Especially because if I just come over here and use the stove, I can hang out under this bigger tarp, which gives me a lot more room. See if I can't construct a little bit of a windbreaker on the stove. It actually does a pretty good job for not getting blown out in the wind. but it still kind of blows that heat away from your pot. I figured I'd pull out my bush pot here and try that on there. Up to now, I've only used the little cook set stove that came with it, which works great. This has a little bit more capacity though, and the stove, you know, obviously is made to use whatever you want to put on there. If anybody's wondering what this plastic case is hanging around here, that's just my microphone case. Some random camera equipment laying around. Yeah, the weather's not exactly cooperating in a sense. I was hoping to come out this weekend and to be able to shoot video for a number of things, to do a review on that little MSR cook set, and a review of my own little review of the Serbian mess kit. So I drug that out of my pack only because I was planning to shoot a little review on it, and I'm not sure I'm going to do any of that now. The lighting's, I mean, I'd have to do it, you know, under the tarp here. The lighting's not all that great. But I'm not really complaining. It's just something I was planning on doing, and I'll probably just do later. I haven't been out on a camp out. Well, I guess the last time I camped out and it was raining was about a year ago. It was tail end of April. Camp out where it rained a fair bit, like pretty much the whole time. At least the full second, you know, overnight and into the morning of the next day. But kind of like getting out when it's raining. I don't know why. It's just more interesting that way. Oh yeah, so weather conditions: wet and cool. So what kind of pants did I make sure I wore? Wool pants. And I have a bunch of synthetic and some wool stuff up top too, because I know if I was wearing those cotton canvasy type pants that I was wearing yesterday, those got wet, I knew I was going to be cold and miserable, so I broke out the wool. This morning I brought some of this Bob's Red Mill muesli. Some good stuff. It's a lot of grains with some nuts and some raisins mixed in there. And you can eat the stuff cold, although it's good to mix it in with some like milk or yogurt, let it sit for quite a while, like overnight. It's probably best if you want to eat it cold. Just help those grains kind of soften up a bit. Or you can make it hot like I'm doing this morning. I think I've only actually had it hot one other time, at least out camping. I brought some of this with me when I was out in the mountains of Colorado last summer. I just mixed it up with some water and milk powder and let it sit overnight, and then when I got up early in the morning to go climb some mountains, it was ready to eat, so I ate that and got on my way. And it just tastes really good. It has a good flavor, good hearty flavor to it. Unlike this American stuff they call muesli that comes in a regular cereal box, which is just like the most tasteless mix of random cereal stuff that you can imagine. That stuff's awful compared to this. This is some really good stuff. I'm going to add some milk powder to this and chow down. I've had my my coffee and my breakfast, and I think it's just time to pack up and head on out of here. It's been an enjoyable time out, a little different. Camping in the hammock was fun. That was very comfortable. I definitely want to do that again. Thanks for joining me on this little overnight camp out. It's been fun. If you liked the video, hit like, subscribe to my channel, comment below. And until next time, this is Gareth with Mountain Coffee Outdoors.